All right, we're back broadcasting live at the Toms River Auto Group studio right here in Northfield. Billy Schweim, Mike Carlin, producer Nikki Earnshaw. We just had breaking news about the 76ers. I'll tell you what, with the Flyers and the Sixers making who cares about the Eagles? Nobody's even talking about the Eagles. And right now, it's our honor to have a really special guest. Let's go to the Toms River Volkswagen Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers, Danny Briere. Good morning, Danny.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Hey, man, I got to tell you, we're here doing the show and breaking news. I don't know who's making more moves, you or the Sixers.
Well, we're still tinkering. We're always looking to see if we can improve, but it's getting harder and harder. And obviously, the hockey trades, player for player, is really tough these days with the salary cap. But we're always looking.
So, Danny, with that question, let me ask you this question then: what's the one thing you've learned as a general manager that you didn't know as a player, since it's so hard to trade and everything?
Well, one thing I did learn this year at the draft is how valuable the early second-round picks are. Guys, after the first round, they go back to the hotel. They start looking, and they find the players that have slipped down their list, right? Because all the lists are different, but everybody has a player that is sliding down and they want, and the value of those early second-round picks was just going through the roof on the draft floor. So I'm excited about next year because we might have a few of them. That's something I got to keep in mind going into the season.
We're talking with the Flyers general manager, Danny Briere. Danny, last year you guys lost the Flyers. You guys were exciting to watch. We had Keith Jones on earlier in the year, maybe like in March. We talked about the excitement that you guys regained this year. I was wondering, did the last 7 games that you lost last year and you didn't get into the playoffs, did that have any bearing or effect on how you approach this year?
No, actually, it probably reinforces what the plan all along that we wanted to put in place, where it wasn't going to be a quick fix. It's going to be slow improvements, and because the goal for us, it's not to make the playoffs. The goal is to build a team that's going to be a serious cup contender for years to come. So that's why we have to be careful. We don't want to get lost in the fact that we almost made the playoffs last year. Going into this year, we won't have Carter Hart to start the season for sure. We won't have Sean Walker. We're going to have a player like Matvei Michkov that is going to have to go through some growing pains early in the season and learn how to play here while he's adjusting to the new culture and learning the language as well. So I see us having some bumps along the way this next season. We're still going to be competitive. We're still going to work as hard as any other team in the NHL. But let's be honest, we're not quite ready to win a Stanley Cup, and it's going to be a tough year coming up.
Hey, Danny, it's Nikki Earnshaw here. I want to ask you about Matvei Michkov and how that entire situation played out. Obviously, he signed his entry-level contract. There was a lot of unknowns on whether he'd come over, how early he'd come over to the Flyers. How did that situation play out, and how quickly did it happen?
Well, when we drafted him, the plan was that he had 3 years left on his contract, and he was going to play the next 3 years in Russia before joining us. Last season, I believe for him was a tough one. The loss of his dad, having to go down and play in the farm team in Sochi. I think there was a lot of frustration. And from what we were told, his representatives got involved with the team, and the team was open to give him the chance to leave and go play in the NHL. We started finding out of that probably in April, but we were on the sidelines. We're watching from the outside, and we were waiting for it to happen. It was I wouldn't say frustrating. It was exciting, but we were kept in the dark as far as when we would know anything about it. And finally, maybe about a week before the draft, we found out that they signed his release to let him go. And he's on his way, or he's trying to get everything in order to make his trek to Philadelphia. Hopefully, we're hoping sometimes in maybe late July or maybe in August. But from what we hear, he's on his way. He's coming, and really excited to have him and have the chance for him to work with John Tortorella early in his career. I think is going to be one of the best things for his development.
Hey, Danny, it's Michael Carlin here. I was doing my homework, and one thing that stuck out to me that I wanted to ask you about is you mentioned it, you're not going to have Hart next year to start. Since 2021, there's not been a goalie taken in the first round. Are goalies starting to be like in the NFL, like running backs, so that we think we can get good ones in the second, third, and fourth round, that there's so many of them that we don't really have to take them in the first round kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, it's a good comparison. I think what happens with the goaltending situation is kids have gone so good. The goalie coaches and the techniques for goalies, these young guys are so good. And like you said, there's so many of them that you don't need to rush to take one. We drafted two of them last year in the second and the third round. And, they're two high-end prospects that they're looking really good for us for the future. We also have Kolosov, who was a third-round pick the year before. So we have three young goaltenders that are not even on the Flyers yet. And we have Sam Ersson, who last year took a big step forward. I think at the end of the year he got overplayed once Carter Hart had to leave. He got the net to himself, and that was really taxing. And I think at the end of the year he had a little letdown. But we're excited about Sam's development. Fedotov is not that old either. He's only 27 years old, which is young for a goalie. So I think even through losing Carter Hart, we're really in a really good spot goaltending wise for years to come with all the prospects that are waiting in the background.
We're talking with Flyers general manager Danny Briere. Hey, Danny, there's a great goaltender that sits right on the beach at 25th Street in Ocean City, TJ Semptifeller. Keep your eye on that cat. He's up in there, North Dakota.
That's right. We've been I've been watching him since he was about 8 years old at the rink where my kids were playing. So I've known TJ and his dad for a long time. So certainly a great goaltender to keep our eyes on.
Keep your eye on him, Danny. Danny, how important is it that you guys stick with homegrown talent? I mean, you've got like several players now that is coming up through the organization, or as you guys say it, organization. But is that like something that you guys are concentrating on?
Well, when we have the chance, I mean, we don't go out of our way to reach if it's not realistic, but certainly when we have kids that are within striking distance that we have a chance to get our hold or our hands on, we'll try to extend that if it's possible.
Hey, Danny, it's Nick again. I want to ask you about Michkov again and his relationship to Tortorella. Have you talked to John Tortorella about how you're going to approach his development heading into this year?
Oh, we've been talking long and hard about it for many discussions with it. What I can tell you is John is excited. Torts is excited to work with him, have a chance to mold him, because we know he's a great talent. We know that he does, and we've seen him do things that not a lot of players can do. But he still has a lot to learn, and I think Matvei is the first one to admit it. He knows he has a lot to learn. He's not afraid. He told us of hard coach, but John is very aware of that. He's aware that he has a special talent, but it's a talent that he has to treat fairly, like the rest of his group, and he's going to have to hold them accountable. So. We've had discussions, but at the end of the day, Torts is the one that's going to handle them, and he's got the rights to do what's best for the team, and not just for the team, but also for Matvei to make sure that he learns the right way and he plays the right way, just like the rest of the team. And I think in the long run, it's going to make him, hopefully a great player.
Danny, it's Michael again. I'm thinking of your title and how busy you are. That every hour counts. Is there any talk in your league about changing the timeline between the draft being over a weekend and the very next day, Monday, free agency starts? Yeah. I mean, how do you get around that?
I know it's a great point. It was a little crazy there trying to rush back to Philadelphia, get ready for free agency while we're dealing with the draft, which there are two extremely important times of the season for teams. You have your future at the draft, your long-term future at the draft, and you have your short-term future a couple days later. I think part of the reason why it was so tough this year is the Stanley Cup Finals being played, 3 days before the draft. So I don't know. I've heard a lot of discussions about it. I don't know what the right answer is, but it certainly would be appreciated if we could have a few extra days to prepare for free agency.
Danny, one last point that I'd like to make. You know, you played here in Philadelphia, and you know what kind of style the people like here. You got a hard-nosed, tough-nosed team. Are you satisfied that you have that component going into next year?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. It starts with Nick Delorier and Garnett Hathaway. Those two guys kind of set the tone. Nick Steeler as well. Those three guys have really set the tone. I think it's a big reason why our young guys were able to develop and take a step forward last year. Guys like Tippett, Frost, Farabee, Forster, Brink, all these guys took a step. Cam York on defense. And part of it is feeling comfortable going out there on the ice, knowing that nobody's going to take advantage of them. If you watch our division also, the Rangers have gotten, some toughness. The New Jersey Devil have gotten some toughness. So, we're all set in that area, and I'm glad we have those guys because we're going to need it when we face the tough teams in our division.
Well, Danny, we really appreciate you taking time. I know you're busy. You got a lot going on, a few more interviews later on today. But we really look forward to the Flyers season, and can't thank you enough, and keep up the good work because we'll all be watching.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your support.
All right, there he is, the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers, Danny Briere, man.
Answered all the questions.
Yep. See,
toughness.
You know what it is? It's almost like he's a student of the game, too. You know what I guess I wish we had more time because there's so many more questions. One question I ask, being a player, has that helped you be a GM? Because there's always that big controversy, you don't have to be a player to know how to be in the front office. You don't have to know, but
see, I think you do.
I think you do.
I think you do. I think you have to know what it's like, not just to be on the ice or the locker room, but being on the plane, being on the weight
right, the whole thing.
All that stuff comes together.
Right?
Yeah.
Nick, I talked to Craig Berube the other day, and I said, Chief, he was up at the draft. He was up in Toronto for 14 days. And I said, Chief, are you happy with do you have any input with what the team's going who the team's going to draft? He says no. They didn't get him involved in that. All he does is they give him the players, he coaches them.
They have scouting systems.
Yeah.
They just like a Dan.
Yeah,
They have GM,
right,
they have assistant GMs, they have interns. This is your team. They pull the coach in and say, Coach, this is what we have for you.
So can you guys imagine, Nikki, Phillies go to the World Series? I'm just saying, hypothetically, and I don't want to jinx them, but they're the best team in baseball, so it's not.
We're not talking craziness.
Right, I'm not being crazy. The Phillies I'm just saying get to the World Series. Of course, I want to win it. Yeah. But if they get to the World, because remember, the last time, 1980, all four teams made it to their respective championships. Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, and Eagles.
What you're getting at right now, we have a legitimate three. And like he said,
we have the Sixers now with the breaking news we have today.
Yeah,
How
the
excited,
Sixers
right?
going to the Eastern Final. You get the Eastern
Flyers
Finals,
are building.
anywhere. Right, and like he said,
but Danny Briere did say
we're building for they want to win year after year after year after year. He's made it very clear they're not there right this second.
Right, he doesn't. They're not. He said they're not Stanley Cup contenders now.
They're not all in for right now, but they want to build for years to come.
But Nikki, with what they remember how they played last year, how excited we were.
Yeah.
They didn't even think they were going to make the play. They almost made the playoffs.
I know they almost.
They only need to win 2 of those last 7 games. They're going to the playoffs.
They could be ahead of schedule.
So they could be ahead of schedule.
You never know.
Am I getting too excited?
You're getting a little excited.
You got Sixers. You got the Eagles. Again, we hardly ever talk about the Eagles.
Right.
Who are the Eagles?
Who are the Eagles?
We talk about
color today.
It's great. I mean, you have the Flyers over there. It seems like Danny Briere, Keith Jones know their plan. They're sticking to their plan and are trying to build a contender.
They're on the right path.
Yes, they're on the path they want to be on.
By the way, I'm looking at the roster. I got a few names here. Noah Cates, he's 24, 25 years old. Farabee's young. Tyler Forster, Morgan Frost. Konecny's only 26, 27. Their nucleus is young. I mean, Couturier, and Delorier are the 2 oldest guys on the team.
Yeah, I mean, they're building through the draft, like you mentioned. I mean, they want to have homegrown players, right? They want to build through the draft, have their own guys, develop them, and be a cup contender for years and years to come.
Do you remember what Keith Jones said? It stuck in my head when we had him last year. He said
we had him in March
because we were talking about signing a big-time free agent.
Right.
He literally came out and said, "We're not ready for that yet."
Well, because what Michkov is almost that free agent, right?
Yeah,
Nick?
I mean, essentially.
He
yeah.
said we're close. He said next year.
Well, he said
"Let's
because
see what
Danny
happens
Briere
next
just
year."
said they didn't even think he was going to come over for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
and they get him 2 years, 3 years early.
Yep. I mean, he's 19 years old. He's 19 years old.
We don't want to. Like, is he going to? Like, what are your expectations for Michkov?
I mean,
this year,
Danny even said it. I mean, there's going to be growing pains.
Is he a top 6 player or top line?
I mean, Danny, you said it. I mean, Nikki, you said it right before we got on the air that they're going to put him right on the power play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like?
They're going to utilize him on the power play.
You have really high expectations for him.
I have high expectations, but like Danny said, there's going to be growing pains. He's 19 years old. Like, he's going to contribute, but there's going to be times where he's going to mess up. I mean, he's going to be a developing player. He's 19, but the talent level is there. That's what's key.
Remember what Maxey looked like in the first 2 years?
Yeah.
We saw the burst. We saw the future.
Right.
But
it wasn't consistent.
But all of a sudden we'd sit back. Oh, why did he do that?
Right.
Give him time. That's
I'm
what
psyched.
Nick's saying.
I'm
Give him
psyched.
time.
Look, Carlin, you got your Phillies shirt on. He's got a Sixers hat on. My head's spinning.
We're not used to this. There's contenders everywhere in this town.
Nick, I got to tell you, it's not that I'm not used to it, but my senior year in high school, all 4 teams went to their respective championships.
My senior year, Eagles won the Super Bowl. So.
Well,
yeah, I mean, this is what we need. We need championships now. It's like these teams are contenders. They got to turn into championships.
Let me ask you this question before we go to break.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask you. Is Philadelphia a destination city for players?
It's turning into one.
Because a few years ago, Mike Gill and I had an argument. He said this is not a destination. I think players want
He was right back then.
He was right back then?
He was right back
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
I don't think now, but he was right back then.
I think it's turning it. I think when Bryce Harper signed here,
Bryce Harper is a catalyst for this whole city.
Yeah. It
Jalen
changed.
Hurts.
Yep.
Yeah. Brown.
A.J. Brown.
Look at all the big names that our sports teams have gotten.
I'm shocked.
Paul George.
I'm shocked George left L.A. It's hard to leave L.A., guys.
Right?
He would have got the money. Push comes to shove. I think he eventually
who did we just get?
Martin
Who did we just get from
Martin.
Martin?
Caleb Martin.
Miami.
I mean,
Players want to play here
coming.
now.
players want to come here. This is a winning city. People know that the fans are nuts, and it's all started. Bryce Harper has brought it to the surface.
Trey
almost.
Turner.
Hard-working guys. That's why this Martin guy, wait till you see what kind of worker he is. The fans are going to love him. Love him. He'll be diving in the stands for balls. Love him.
Can shoot it. He's tough.
Yeah.
You need that in the playoffs. They haven't been tough. Remember those game 7s? They fell apart. You need toughness in those games, and that's what they're bringing in.
Who's the one player you think it's Bryce Harper that really turned?
I think Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper.
I mean,
by the way, did you see on the broadcast last night on Apple TV? They actually said that he's Dave Dombrowski's right-hand man.
Yeah,
As
he's
far as
had a lot to say.
We're talking to people. I'm sure he is.
Schwarber, Castillo. I mean, you're not getting these names a couple years ago. You're not. I mean, Trey Turner.
I think
who would have thought?
But it's also permeating throughout the rest of the teams in the city.
That's what's so great about these All-Star games. Excuse me. These All-Star, because they all talk.
Right.
And the players are going to be like, hey, they're talking about my agent saying I may be up, for a trade. What's it like over there? Harper's going to say it's fabulous.
I'm pumped up, man. I'm pumped up.
It's July, Billy.
July 6th, and I'm pumped up. By the only way, but I'm thinking Eagles right now in my head. You know the one thing that sticks in my craw right now about the Eagles? And I heard you guys talking. I think I heard you guys talking about the Nick Nuggets. About the Kelly Greens.
Yeah, the Kelly Greens.
2 games.
I don't associate with the Kelly Greens with losing, even though
Yeah.
Nick, give me during the Buddy Run, they had the gangrene defense.
Right.
Our defense was feared, and they played in those Kelly Greens.
Right. Bring them back. They're just cool
Bring them
looking.
back. I want
cool looking.
I want 4 games with the Kelly. Mike Gill, I think, said that it represents losing or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
I want the Kelly
It didn't win the
Greens.
big one, but we were a feared defense back then.
They should wear them more. They should become the official jersey. In my opinion.
Wes Hopkins with the high black tops.
I love the Kelly Green. I love the powder blues. I love the Kelly Greens. Oh yeah,
Bring it all back. Come on, Mike Carlin. Eagles, baby. Eagles. Eagles. All right.
I love it.
The first hour of the locker room is powered by, we want to thank Danny Briere, who was on the Tom's River Volkswagen Sports Hotline. All right, the first hour of the locker room is powered by Surety Title. Surety provides comprehensive title insurance protection and professional settlement services for home buyers and sellers, real estate agents, brokers, lenders, home builders, developers, and attorneys to facilitate your real estate purchase. From the shore to Center City and every place in between, Surety Title is there for you. With 15 office locations in New Jersey and PA, that's Surety Title. For more information, call my good friend Ron Conklin at 856-988-8900 or give the Ocean City office a call at 609-399-1227. Now, just about everybody in our area has heard about the Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine that is run by ex-Philadelphia tight end Ken Dunnick. Were you aware of their private business network they call the Legacy Club? Every month, they hold private events at upscale locations in Philadelphia and South Jersey that attract over 200 top business people. If you have an interest in attending one of these events and seeing it's a fit for your business, send an email to ken@jerseymanmagazine.com or give them a call at 856-912-4007 for more information. All right, when we return, we'll wrap it up. You're listening to we'll wrap up hour number 1. You're listening to The Locker Room with Billy Schweim, Mike Carlin, and Nicky Earnshaw right here on 97.3 ESPN.